All right, team, let's kick off the design review. Before we even think about writing code for this new platform, we need to get on the same page about a core principle, Python's whole philosophy on typing. So think of this as your official architect's briefing. Let's dive in.
So, this is it. This is the first, and maybe the most fundamental question we have to answer for any project. And every single choice we make from this point on is going to be a trade-off between these two. Are we going all in on raw development speed just to get an MVP out the door and into users' hands? Or do we build a fortress, a fortress of type safety to make sure this thing is stable from day one? This decision is going to echo through every single sprint.
To make this real, I want you to picture two different toolboxes. The first one, it's got a perfectly molded, labeled slot for every single tool. It's super organized, it's safe, you literally can't grab the wrong thing. The other toolbox is more like one of those slick, futuristic multi-tools. It's incredibly versatile, it's compact, and it lets you move ridiculously fast. One is built for safety, the other for speed.
Okay, so these two toolboxes, they really represent two core philosophies in programming, static typing and dynamic typing. And these aren't just, technical features. They are fundamentally different ways of thinking about how we build software. So what's the actual difference when you're coding? Well, with static typing, think languages like C or Java, you have to declare a variable's type right from the get-go. You're basically telling the compiler, hey, see this box? It will only ever hold an integer. Your job is to enforce that rule. But Python? It's dynamically typed. We don't declare types up front. We just assign a value and Python figures out the type on the fly while the program is actually running. And you know what? This flexibility is Python's superpower. For real. You can create a variable, let's just call it x, and set it equal to 10. Right then, Python knows it's an integer. But on the very next line of code, you can turn around and assign the string hello to that exact same variable. And Python doesn't complain one bit. The variable's type just changes. That's dynamic typing in a nutshell. That flexibility is awesome, but it leads us to the single most important distinction between these two ways of doing things. What is the real, practical impact of choosing one over the other?
It all comes down to when you discover your mistakes. In a static language, if you have a type mismatch, the compiler catches it before your program is even allowed to run. It's like a mandatory pre-flight check that grounds a faulty plane right there on the tarmac. But in a dynamic language like Python, the program starts up just fine. The error only pops up at runtime. That's when the code actually tries to execute that one problematic line. The plane's already in the air, and that's when the engine decides to fail.
Now here's where a lot of developers get a little tripped up. We've just said Python is dynamic and flexible. But then you'll hear people say it's a strongly typed language. So how can it be both, flexible and strong? It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? But it's really not.
Here's the key. Strongly typed just means the language is really strict about how you can mix different types together. It's not going to perform some weird, unexpected conversion behind your back to make something work. It's predictable. If an operation doesn't make any logical sense for the types you're giving it, Python will just refuse to do it and throw an error.
Let's look at the classic example. What do you think happens when we try to add the number 10 to the string hello? Now, in some languages, we call those weakly typed. The system might just guess that you want to turn the number into a string and smash them together. So, what does Python do?
It raises a type error. It crashes. And believe it or not, that's a good thing. This is Python being strong. It refuses to guess what you meant. Instead of silently giving you a result that might be totally wrong, it stops everything and tells you exactly what and where the problem is. This prevents a whole class of really subtle bugs. And this isn't just a theory. This is a real-world horror story about weak typing. A developer was building a concert calendar. The front end was in a weakly typed language. And every time they tried to add dates for the band 311, it would fail. Why? Because somewhere in the system, the string 311 was being silently converted into the number 311, and that was causing total chaos down the line. A strongly typed language like Python would have stopped that dead in its tracks. So you see, this is the fundamental trade-off that we, as architects, have to deal with. Python's dynamic nature gives us incredible speed when we're developing, while its strong typing protects us from those dangerous silent conversions. But we're still left with the challenge of handling type errors that only show up when the code is already running.
This table really breaks it all down. On one side, the pros, flexibility, less boilerplate code. That means we can deliver features faster and the code looks cleaner. That's a huge win for being agile. But the things on the right, that's what keeps architects up at night. Runtime errors that can crash a system in production, a small performance hit because of those runtime checks, and code that can get harder to predict as a project gets bigger and bigger. This all fits perfectly into Python's bigger philosophy, which is to reduce the amount of stuff the developer has to think about. Not needing type declarations is a big part of that. So is automatic memory management. Python handles things like reference counting and garbage collection for you, freeing up memory automatically so you can focus on the actual business logic, not on low-level memory stuff.
For years, we kind of just lived with this trade-off. It was the cost of doing business in Python. But the whole Python world has evolved. We don't have to choose between pure speed and pure safety anymore. Modern Python gives us a hybrid approach, and it really is the best of both worlds.
The solution is called type hints, and they're pretty much exactly what they sound like. They're optional labels that you can add to your code. Let's go back to our toolbox analogy. It's like taking our super flexible multi-tool and just adding our own labels to it. The tool itself still works exactly the same way, but now we have clear instructions on how to use it. And the Python interpreter itself, it completely ignores these hints when it runs the code.
So this is our new, modern workflow. It's a simple three-step process. First, we write our code, adding these optional type hints. Second, as a completely separate step, before we run anything, we use a static analysis tool like MyPy. It scans our code and flags any type mismatches, just like a traditional compiler would. And third, we just execute the code and it runs dynamically just like it always has. We've basically added that pre-flight safety check without giving up our flexible, high-speed jet.
Okay, this brings us to the most important part. How do we actually apply this stuff to our projects? Based on everything we've just talked about, here are my official architectural recommendations for the team. So here's our playbook going forward. For quick prototypes and small internal scripts, just stick with pure dynamic Python. The speed is what matters there. But for our large, shared code bases, the big projects, using type hints and running MyPy in our deployment pipeline is now mandatory. That's our safety net. And finally, for any code that's dealing with unpredictable data, like from an external API or something, don't forget you can always do runtime checks using is_instance_of. Trust but verify.
So there you have it. You get the philosophies, you understand the trade-offs, and you know about the modern tools we have. You now know how to choose between building for speed and engineering for safety. The Architect's Toolkit is officially in your hands. The only question left is, what are we going to build?